This is Seasons of Discontent with your hosts Rick Snyder and Matt Combs.
Welcome to Seasons of Discontent, Season 12, Episode 1. We're starting it back over again. Brought to you by Rick Snyder's Washington. So, I'm Rick Snyder.
And I'm Matt.
Kind of forgot for a second. And we're here discussing all things Washington sports and life as part of the mighty Rick Snyder, Washington.com's empire, whatever.
Empire.
Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Tell I'm out of practice. All right, so I wrote the budget, Matt. I wrote down new stadium and the draft. We could talk about anything else if we have.
I mean, we haven't touched on free agency. I guess you could talk about that, but you know, we can kind of intertwine that with the draft, I guess, because in a lot of ways their draft picks was free agency with the acquisitions of Tunsil and Debo. But yeah, I mean, go ahead, kick it off wherever you want to go. I'm there.
All right, new stadium. Everybody says I'm a hater because I just point out the fact that it's not a done deal until the city council checks off on it. And as I said, and everybody goes, oh, you're a hater. No, I'm telling you, this is how the process works. So you're a hater. I see you have it behind you there. I mean, that's just a mayor's rendering. You know, Harris kind of chuckled when he, was like, that's not the final thing.
Mm-hmm.
If it was, it's pretty nice looking. Give it that. They're always wondering how the glass is going to work. It's facing the dome. I'm not sure if it really does, kind of thing. I've got more questions about, is it a glass ceiling or what? They haven't said. It's just a proposed rendering.
Right.
They have the moat's not even drawn on here yet. So
no, the moat is in Greece or Italy with Dan Snyder.
I think here's a few things I think about the new stadium. I'm glad it's going to go to the RFK site. And I do think the city council will approve this. They need 7 out of 13 to vote yes. They've got 4 already in hand. They've got several ops very firmly against. So it's always in America, what's the middle?
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about what kind of perks do these people get for their district. I'm not saying they pay cash, but they're going to be looking for, all these cutbacks in the budget the federal government screwed them on with $1 billion. These people are going to say this is a once in a lifetime for us to get something special for our vote, which, I don't know, a community center or something they want. This is your chance. Don't give away your vote. Cash it in. My God, it's Washington, D.C. of all places. So I think it will get there eventually. I think this is a good deal for both sides. I said that a couple of weeks ago. If this was the deal, sign it, because the team is going to be paying 3/4, the city 1/4. That's much lower than a lot of other localities have done with their stadiums. But Harris, ever paying like he did, is getting developmental rights on a lot of 180 acres. All there are 54 wetlands, so you don't get all that. But there's something in it for everybody to make a lot of money and get the team back. And there's a lot of benefits that spill over on that. So, and as a Maryland taxpayer, fine with me. Spend DC's money, not mine.
Aside from the obvious of, yes, it's tugging at all the feels. We're going back to RFK. I'm sure it will be such and such stadium at RFK or something like that.
I don't think so.
No?
I'll tell you why. If I'm Pepsi and I want to spend $1 bazillion on naming rights for this team, I don't want RFK's name next to it, because what are you and I going to call it?
RFK.
We'll call it RFK anyway for several years, but like Commanders is finally taking over Redskins in some people's minds, Pepsi wants eventually to be the one. I mean, in Denver, Pepsi bought the arena, and everybody called it the pop can, which really ticked them off, because they want you to say the word, damn it. They want it in your head, so when you buy a soda, you get Pepsi. But
regardless of what the name is, I mean, Rick, you have to. I don't see how anybody living in the district, or aside from the fact that obviously the district is such a transient city, it's such a melting pot of people that were not born here, so they really have no allegiance to anything DC other than the fact that they live and work here. I get that, but for any pure Washingtonian, like, you and I were born just right down the road. You were born in DC. I was born 15 minutes outside of DC. Anyway, I would say this: how you cannot look at this deal and think 5, 6, 7 years down the road, how much revenue this is going to bring the city. We talked over text the other night. 2 out of 5 restaurants are set to close in the district this year. Okay, so a lot of these people are saying, "Oh, well, let's reallocate these funds and we'll open a different entertainment district." Okay, so you're going to open an entertainment district with more restaurants to fail. This, however, with the attractive of a stadium, and I'm not just talking about the 18 games or whatever will be played by the Commanders there. I'm talking about, as they had on the flyer yesterday during the press conference, Taylor Swift skipped DC because she didn't have an adequate stadium to play in. She went to Philly. You know, you're not going to get a SummerSlam or a WrestleMania. You're not going to get the draft. You're not. Goodell even said it yesterday that this gives us a better chance to get a Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, versus nothing.
Versus zero, which is now, right?
Yeah.
I get that, but you have to look at, like I said, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Monster Jam. Could you bid for Final Four games? Of course, because you're going to have a 65,000 seat stadium in the heart of DC that is going to be surrounded by restaurants, hotels, and such. I just don't understand how these councilmen or people in DC that vote on this stuff are just going to sit there and say, "Nah, we don't want this. Let's make another wharf," or "Oh, let's make a homeless shelter. We're going to make a 180 acre homeless shelter that you have to pay for." And I'm sorry, nothing against the homeless people. I'm not anti-homeless or something, but that's not going to bring revenue in. This city needs revenue. This city has been hurting. COVID hurt DC. Let's be honest here. COVID hurt DC because all the federal workers worked from home. The restaurants weren't making money during the lunch hours. The parking garages where all these federal workers work, their parking garages were not paid for. The buildings stood empty for how long because all the federal workers were at home. There was nothing to do. You couldn't go anywhere. You know what I mean? So this city needs a revitalization of money and an influx of money. And what better way to do it than to bring the number one, nothing against the Caps, the Wiz, or the Nationals, or the Defenders, or DC United. The Commanders are number one in this town. They always have been. Let's regardless of the 20 some years of damage that Dan Snyder did, this team has always been number one in the city. And now they're going back to where it belongs. And I'm sorry, but it's going to hit guys like me who went to RFK in the twilight. It's going to hit us in the fields, and us who have children are going to want to take our kids to go to RFK or the RFK site, whatever you want to call it. So I don't see how this is a negative thing, and I feel like it's a win-win for both parties. And you're right. Harris is putting up $2.7 billion, regardless of where he's getting it from. It ain't coming from the Saudis. There ain't no blood money, but this is the biggest private investment that anyone has made in the city of DC ever.
All right, so a couple of things. RFK's name will be somehow connected because 54 acres are going to be wetlands and untouchable.
Right.
So they're going to somehow put it like, the RFK Gardens or something like that. But they need to keep the name off the stadium. And everybody will say it, but time will pass. Number two, I know one of the councilmen was talking about, we could spend that $1 billion on the poor. In 1968, I remember everybody complaining, why are we going to the moon when everybody here is poor? We got to feed the hungry here. Why are we spending money on moon shots and all? Because the answer to that goes back even to biblical times, which is there's always going to be poor people and there's always going to be rich people.
Unfortunately, yes.
Communism tries to take the money from the rich people to the poor people. Well, you got oligarchs in Russia. So, that's to me, I understand that argument, but no. Because this thing will make, as you say, money. 14,000 jobs to build it, 2,000 permanent jobs for ushers, parking people. 2,000 jobs on that side of town is a big deal.
Not to mention the hotels they're building, hotel workers. You have to have maids and front door people and engineers and stuff like that. I mean, it's more than just 2,000. 2,000, I understand, is just for the stadium.
Yeah, but you don't even need the hotels there because what they did in the old RFK days is people lived all over town because there was nothing by the stadium. They haven't built anything in that area of town since RFK Stadium, really 60-some years ago. But people would stay all over town and have brunch. They could jump on the metro and get to the game. So they would time it that way. Amazing how many people did that. Town was full for brunch at 11 a.m. all across town. So that kind of thing is going to ripple through the whole town. I know the restaurant owners in Georgetown or whatever are going to say, why do I got to pay this business tax like Nats Park? Nobody's here. Well, yes, they are too.
Yeah.
Plus, visiting fans are going to come in more for that too, because they have this experience versus being out in Landover. They can come to DC. It's going to help tourism, which is once again on the brink of taking a big shot again in this town. We're going to have a down year for that because the foreigners don't want to come to town given everything going on. So I thought Bowser gave a master class in a press conference. I was pretty impressed with her. She managed to defend the points pretty well. I like that she told Harris at one point earlier, listen, we got to go. You either want to do this deal or we're moving on to the next guy. And Harris was like, I feel the same way. I've been waiting for you to get the land.
Right.
Okay, everybody can come to the table. Let's go. And I thought they gave a pretty fair deal. There is money for everybody in this deal. There's no doubt of that. Two things that people have asked me a lot about online the past day. What's the roof going to be? Don't know. They haven't done a study yet to say. They want something open, but they don't know. And people are like, is it going to be natural grass? We haven't even got there yet, And of course, some people say, well, they're going to bring the color team back. Oh my God, leave me alone. We're having an aneurysm over that on there. So people ask a lot about that. And then the tailgating. I made a joke on Twitter. I make jokes. And I just said, there's only going to be 8,000 spaces versus 22,000 at FedEx. And I don't remember the old RFK number, but it was pretty big. I said, and out of that 8,000, well, you're taking ones out for the team. You're taking ones out for the rich people, suite holders, all that. The politicians will be there because in the old RFK days, there were plenty of congressmen from all over the country that became Redskins fans down the street. So once you get done with all that, tailgate 10, a couple other guys might sneak in, but that's going to be about it. So I made a joke, buy your Metro card now. That tweet has been seen by 250,000 people, and I can't tell you how many, like, I don't need to buy one now. We got 5 years. Oh, I use Apple Pay. Y'all are morons. I mean, come on. I'm joking here. But you will need a Metro card to go. I mean, and as Nats fans found out, it's okay. You can do that.
Yeah, if you recall back in the early days of Nats Park, yes, there were open lots that have now had construction put on them. I mean, we used to park right off it. I think it was M and 13th or something like that. There was an empty lot. It was gated. You went in there, you paid your $20, you walked to the stadium. That lot is probably now a hotel or condos or something. So in the early days, sure, you'll be able to park, you'll be able to tailgate and do all your stuff in the undeveloped land. But once it gets developed, yeah, eight grand, okay. This is more of, like you said, this is going to be a hub. You know what I mean? This is going to be something that you ride the Metro, you walk to a restaurant, or you do something. Who knows? It doesn't have to. The reason people tailgate at FedEx is because there's nothing around. There's nothing at Northwest Stadium. What are you going to do? Go sit on Central Avenue and go to the McDonald's across the street? Come on now. So, but I will say this, going back to the press conference, and I did want to applaud Muriel Bowser. You are correct. She was quick and fired back with every answer that she needed to. The one thing that I really did, I guess I didn't understand, but the more and more I thought about it was, she's correct when it comes to, they need a place for our children. Not my children, they don't live in DC, but for the children of DC. Schools are on a city block. They don't have football fields. They don't have soccer fields. They barely have a gym. One of the most prestigious universities, which is in DC, has a 2,500 seat gymnasium at Georgetown University. So this will be a centralized hub where they have youth football, youth soccer, as she had mentioned, the youth cheerleading, the youth gymnastics. This gives our children, or the children of DC, places to go, and to become something. Whether they want to be a soccer star or a basketball star or a football star or a cheerleader or whatever. This gives them the place and the to go learn and do this stuff. Like I said, I'm in love with the idea and the plans that they unveiled yesterday. I think it makes the most sense in the world. And yeah, like you said, we'll have RFK bridge at Kingman Park or something because they're still going to keep the Kingman Park down by the water. Um, but yeah, I absolutely thought it was great. It was surprising to see Goodell there. I kind of was taken aback when they introduced Roger Goodell. But if you think back, Goodell did go on Capitol Hill with Josh Harris to kind of bargain for this land given back to DC. So I feel like Roger's kind of been involved, and I didn't know he was from DC, but apparently he grew up here.
Yeah, I mean, a lifetime ago, I covered DC prep sports, and I do remember. I think it was Cardoso. The end zone. If you kicked the field goal, the ball went into traffic
Yeah.
behind the zone. You know, yeah. I mean, that would sounds like the PG Learning Annex or whatever again coming to DC. Like that's what Cook had to build next to FedEx, and it served all the purposes you just said.
Yeah.
It's still there. So I think that's a great thing for him too. I mean, like you said, there's money for everybody here, and so don't give away your vote because you want some of that. It's kind of just hard to believe that they're really going to pull this off after Dan Snyder couldn't even get a meeting. That's why Dan Snyder's no longer owning his team because he couldn't deliver the stadium and all its revenues to his NFL partners.
Yeah,
And
that yeah.
other stuff, you know.
I
So
hope Dan had a really bad day yesterday.
yeah, so I was thinking, I'm writing a column for somebody about how are they going to raise all this money? And I thought, well, we could have a dunking boot. Suppose they could get Dan Snyder, wrap him up in London, bring him back. How much would you throw? How much would you pay to throw 3 shots to dunk him? $100?
I liked your better idea. Give me a $5 raffle ticket to hit the plunger on FedEx Field.
Yeah, that's another one. I think we'd make a lot. I said that with the Wilson Bridge too, but we can make a lot of money doing these kind of things.
Yeah.
If we put a fair down there, the Dan Snyder one alone would make a lot of money. People would chip in together to throw a ball on it. I mean, I don't know. The city just lost its AAA bond rating this past week because the federal government screwing them by $1 billion and they never brought that up for a vote again. So they said, we're going to help. Don't worry. We cut it, that big learning bill at the end. They said, we'll get you the money back. Don't worry. Never a vote, never a meeting on this thing. So he's kind of screwed on some of this. And now by losing that bond rating, well, maybe they'll get it back in time and then they can refinance, the money there. I mean, Mayor said they have money. Really? Where's your money being hidden? Caymans?
Well, and like she said, a lot of the money that is going to be allocated for the stadium is in the 2026 budget. The 25 budget is already fixed. And she said that they're going to do everything they can not to furlough or anything like that. And, I'll be honest with you, I was not really a fan of hers up until the last couple years. But, I just, I don't know. I believed what she said. I know she's a politician, and deep down inside, you can't really trust all these people. But, I believe that I think, honestly, Rick, when the possibility of gaining this land became a real possibility, I think that was when she had decided, look, this is what we're doing. There's nothing else. We're not putting a Walmart down there. We're not putting a homeless shelter. This is what we're doing. This is the influx of cash to revitalize the city. And like you said, she's got 4 on board. I'm sure out of the 9 that remain, they could somehow be convinced. But, I said this to my buddy yesterday. These are the times that we need a Marion Barry and we need a Vincent Gray. Guys that would, Barry went in there and got that Nats Park. That was all Marion Barry. It had nothing to do with anybody else. Marion Barry wanted the Nationals here. He wanted them to have their own ballpark. Guess what? Here we are 20 years later, they got their own ballpark, that they've been in for a long time. So, yeah. But that, you need a guy like that, a true Marion Barry was a Washingtonian through and through. That guy, look, I mean, that guy was so popular, he went to jail and they made him mayor again. I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I had to deal with Barry some as a reporter, and but he was an interesting guy to deal with. But, in the end, I saw one of the council people say, sports is bad business. And I thought, Okay, tell that to people down in Chinatown. There used to be surface parking lots and chickens hanging in windows and stuff.
Yeah.
That's revitalized like $6 billion of development in the Penn Quarter. Tell it to people in the Navy Yard at Nats Park. It used to be a disgrace to come into town on South Capitol Street. And you saw the dome and just looked like a war zone on both sides of you. And today, look at all the Navy Yard. This is a chance to make the eastern gateway of the city, which has done nothing since the RFK was built in 61. There's been hardly anything. Benning Road's starting to get a little, but this is a chance to go boom again. The one question I wonder, and no one said to me yet, is I found out the Armory is not on the stadium grounds. It's next to the stadium, but it's not. But why isn't the Armory being discussed, being moved or something? I mean, it's a big old shell of a barn. I know we have a National Guard, but isn't there somewhere else to put them? Do they need that? To me, that's the big piece of property next to the stadium you want. But I guess it's a whole different negotiation. But I'm just surprised you have to walk. For those who don't know, the Metro, I don't know, is a 10-minute walk max, but you have to walk past the Armory, literally, then get to RFK. So I'm surprised they haven't done something there yet.
Yeah, and I'm sure, it wasn't a part of the plans yesterday, but that's the thing. I think the major consensus with Muriel Bowser was not only, and she had mentioned this during the press conference, it's not only bringing the team home, it's getting rid of the blight. That's a 65-year-old stadium that is falling apart that, if you're standing in the wrong spot, you can get concrete or a piece of metal falling on your head. Well, you can't get close to the stadium. It's gated off, but, huh?
That's a free souvenir, though.
Yeah, my mom has a piece of the parking lot from the last game.
I once was I took my kids to an NSYNC concert at RFK years ago. Yeah, it was full and it was crazy. Anyway, I'm driving out of that parking lot 8, which is so dilapidated, and it rained and it was dark, and I hit a pothole so hard my rearview mirror fell off my windshield.
Yeah.
I'm lucky I didn't blow a tire. That's how bad things were down there.
We went to a Nats game there during the first or second year they were here, and it was a mess then. I mean, it's falling apart. But realistically, like I said, the major thing is we need to get rid of the blight. And after this new metropolis is built, I think they're going to trace. Hey, what's up with that place? Let's give that place a facelift. I mean, you got to remember, Rick. They moved the convention center. They've got that new convention center down off, what is it, Independence or whatever. I mean, it's a beautiful big building. I think in time the Armory will get taken care of as well.
Yeah, I think it's the new one's like at 9th and New York Avenue or something.
In New York Avenue, I knew it was one of the major thoroughways.
Yeah, I think it's New York Avenue. I could drive right to it. I'm getting like my dad, who was a cab driver in town too, and worked at gas company. He could tell you how to get to anywhere, but he didn't know any names of the streets anymore because he just turned after you go over the bridge. Which bridge?
So,
Which bridge? 7 of them.
Funny story for you and I, because we live down here.
Yeah.
I had somebody ask me, so I just take Crane Highway to get to your house, and I was like, yeah, you take 301. No, what's 301? Crane Highway? I was like, yes.
Yeah.
Get on 301 South. It's very easy to get to. And they're like, well, we don't use road numbers. And it's like, well, sorry, you're not from Southern Maryland.
Yeah. Did you know who Crane was?
Robert Crane? No, I don't.
Governor of Maryland, way back.
Not before I was even thought of, probably.
Yeah, no one knows that one at all either. Just like the old bridge is named for a governor and too. So yeah, it's just ingrained. People use numbers down here. Well, I'm hoping that I hope that I get to see the new stadium. I mean, I will. I know I'll be alive, but
you won't be covering the team.
No, I don't think I'll be covering the team in 5 more years. I mean, this is my 47th year.
I will make a plea to you. Can you please just hang on? Can you get me a press pass just for one game at the new stadium?
Yeah, that'll be easy.
Hey, come on now. Look, all we got to do is get picked up by Spotify, make all that money. I mean, look at all the money that the Call Me Daddy girl got like $100 million. Come on, we can do this.
Oh, we can buy seats for that.
All right, well, you want to talk about the draft real quick? We could kind of intertwine some free agency stuff too.
I was surprised by the first pick, only in that they had taken Tunsil already, so I didn't think they'd go for another tackle. Every GM says every single time, Oh, this first rounder was great, man. He should have gone much earlier. We got a steal. Same thing the second round. We should have got him in the first. That was a steal. I love these guys. And then they don't do jack, but we'll see. But they're going to try him at right tackle, and if it doesn't work, they're going to kick him to guard. But they're going to do something with him.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, at least they didn't draft a guy that weighed 465 pounds. Can you imagine how big that dude is? He signed as a free agent somewhere.
He's got to be a defensive lineman.
And yeah, because that we didn't have to move much. Offensive linemen have to run around.
Yeah. I think ideally with, what is it, Connerly? Yeah, I think ideally, like you said, you play Tunsil at left, you play Connerly at right. You're going to kick Coleman in at right guard because Cosme won't be back before if he's back at all this season, it'll be towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
It allows you to make Wiley benched or cut. You still have Allegretti and Biotish and guys like that on the left side and at center. I think ideally, look, Rick, I kind of scratched my head when I saw offensive linemen, but at the end of the day, when you look at the franchises at the top of the draft every single year, what did the Chiefs do this year? They took a offensive lineman. What did the Eagles do? They took a linebacker. I mean, you don't necessarily, you have your flashy positions. You got your quarterback last year. Would I've liked to have seen a running back maybe in the second? Sure. But, hey, I like the corner that they got. The kid's really good at pass breakups. He's got to be better than Emmanuel Forbes was for us as a draft pick. So there's that. As far as free agency, I think the only loss that I will say was probably disappointing to me was Jeremy Chin. I'm glad they didn't give De'Ami Brown $10 million like Jacksonville did. That's way we talked about it before free agency. If it was more than $5 million, I was out on De'Ami Brown because it took until this year for De'Ami to really catch on. But you made a trade for Debo, which is going to be your gadget guy. You made the big splash with Laramie Tunsil, who I didn't see that coming. I thought, if anything, it was going to be Hendrickson from Cincinnati.
Because that's the big thing everyone wonders. You didn't get a defensive end.
Yeah.
Oh, he's still out there, and now if you trade for him, you can pay that pick next year.
Yeah.
So maybe that still happens.
But you got to pay him.
I don't think it will. But man, where's the defensive end out of this whole thing?
They're just going to outscore everybody 50 to 40.
I mean, they strengthened their back seven, and that's great. But I would have liked to have seen something at defensive end, at least pretend.
Well, they got Kinlaw. What does Kinlaw play in?
More inside.
Inside.
I don't know. I mean, they got the running back. It's a seventh round pick. Do we really think that he's going to unseat Brian Robinson? I mean, there's a reason he's a seventh round pick.
No.
Although I know part of it was he just played one game last year. Their linebacker was just a depth thing situation. They got a punt returner maybe in Lane. Okay, I'll take a punt returner. I mean, for a later round pick. But
they let Crowder go, right?
Yeah, I gave it a B as a draft because two potential starters. And if we factor in the 3 picks gone for veterans they brought in, it's an A. I mean, 5 guys will be on that field because of this draft.
Yeah.
That's one way to look at it, the optimistic way. But other than that, after, I just noticed that my stats were down a lot entering the draft. Maybe I'm getting boring and people are tired of me, but
no,
it's just we had JD last year to compare the stats to.
Yeah, that was me. I was telling my buddies, this is the first year that I can remember not really caring who they take because at the end of the day, Adam Peters is going to take the best fit for this team.
The worst,
and we weren't in the running to get the flashy player. We weren't going to get Abdul Carter. We weren't in the running for one of the quarterbacks. We weren't going to get there were really no big wide receivers in this one, except for maybe the kid out of Ohio State. But, we weren't in the running for those big name skill guys coming out of college. We were going to get trench guys, and that's what we got in the first round.
When you watch the coverage, did it gall you a little bit that Desmond Howard was on the desk, who was a first round bust for Washington? He went on elsewhere and played okay, but
won a Super Bowl.
He did well elsewhere, but he stunk here.
Yeah.
I mean, first year when he came, he was just still does it. He giggles a lot, and the other players are like, "Who the hell is this?" these were battle tested guys in the Super Bowl. Here's this young little guy giggling. They just froze him out. But I just thought it was funny that he was there doing that. And of course, they went to break when the Commanders were on the clock. Just keep that going, man. I don't know what it is, but
They couldn't do it last year because we had the second pick in the draft and we got the best quarterback in the draft by far. They weren't going to they couldn't go to commercial. You notice they were like they were commercial free for about the first half hour, 40 minutes of the draft this year.
They went to break like 2 picks before Washington. So I thought, okay, they're going to stick around. No,
they went to break right before the Ravens too. I guess the NFL hates Maryland.
I mean, I love the opening where the Green Bay players said, we got a message from President Trump, and they pulled it open and said, Bears still suck, and big rivalry. That was a big moment in Green Bay.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Green Bay's numbers, they did 700,000. Listen, Green Bay is like Waldorf. It's 100,000 people. I've been there. There's nothing there, man. It's all frozen tundra at it. But, think what D.C. would get if they got a draft. If Green Bay got 700, DC would get, 1.5 million, I bet. If you put it in the right place, like the National Mall, if they can pull that off. And they may still, that's something that's been talked about. They want to get it, I think, in 27. So maybe the Super Bowl, I don't know. I think Goodell is always full of crap anyway. So maybe, but I don't think so. Usually you throw that out there before a stadium deal is done to say, hey, listen, I know it's a lot of money, but we'll throw you the Super Bowl and it's going to be worth X, $200-300 million to your community. That's one way of doing this, but they've already cut the deal now. So people think DC is like just full of money because it's the nation's capital, but it still has to hold its own. And now the federal budget cut it thanks to Elon. So, I think a recession is going to hit DC this summer. Not far away. I'm already hearing about it because people losing jobs and then they cut back in. Poor tour guides like me also, don't have people coming. So we're going to be braced for impact on these things. So, all right. Is there anything else we had to talk about?
Yeah, I want to hit you with a couple things real quick. First and foremost, the Redskins name is done.
Yeah.
They're not changing it back. Josh Harris reiterated it again during the press conference. I know there's a lot of people that are still holding on to it. The Redskins name is gone. Okay. They're bringing back the logo. I know I've read that there's going to be legacy gear, not necessarily on the field, but you will be able to buy the Blackie Wetzel native chief head.
And do it because they're going to make a ton of money off.
Oh, yeah. They know what they're doing. These guys are pretty smart. I'll say that.
Yeah,
so yeah, let's put that to bed. My questions that I had for you, I didn't divulge these to you beforehand.
Oh, great.
Uniforms. Do we see a redesign of the uniform this year, or is that something going to be pushed off till next year?
I think from what I'm hearing, the yellow face mask may be coming back.
Okay.
Ooh. Oh boy, how exciting. And I think the jersey stuff and all is still another year or so away because it's so complicated to do.
I know.
I always laugh because when Vince Lombardi came in, he wanted to change the colors, make them more green bayish. But he had a brother who was a sports apparel salesman. So he wanted to throw his brother-in-law, wanted to throw him the business. Well, this guy ends up showing up with the jerseys and everything hours before the game, and they're not quite the right color.
Yeah, they were the wrong color burgundy.
Yeah, we're screwed. Well, okay, go play in these, But so you never, these things aren't simple. And then the NFL's got to pass everything, and it's a big deal now that everybody's a billionaire.
Yeah, well, I think honestly, for me, the two biggest improvements that they need to make to the uniforms is, for one, you got to get rid of that white jersey. It's awful. Please redesign it. Get rid of that gradient, that dark red. It's not burgundy. And they need to add stripes to the pants or to the socks. I mean, I don't, it looks like they're wearing leggings, and also I would like to see a redesign of the W. The W is not a logo. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And you'd be amazed how many media outlets use it, and I'm like, okay, they were too woke to do Redskin stuff. So now they want to do just a W. I got to tell you, Jeff, I never looked at a player's socks in my life. So I couldn't tell you anything about it, except I know that they have two people next to me in the press box. Ricky Irvins is one of them, who watch all of that, and they get
Yeah.
people fined for wearing the
Yeah,
wrong.
they're the uniform inspectors.
Every stadium does that.
Yep. But
So
yeah, they need to that I think those are the two improvements that you could make this year that wouldn't cost too much. I mean, obviously you have to work with Nike on the jerseys and stuff like that. Um, what was my other question for you? Predictions.
parking
Let's do our way too early predictions.
was the season record.
You think they take a step back this year,
Well,
playing a second place schedule?
versus 12 wins last year. I think they might be a little pressed to get to that. The schedule's supposed to come out, I think, May 14th.
Yeah.
It's on a Wednesday this year, so, I mean, do they play abroad? How does that factor in? I mean, Goodell said the other day he wants 16 international games every year, including Asia. Now, good luck with that. I mean, and that could do it. I'd like to think the bye will come before Halloween for once, or before Christmas. It's within 3 straight years of mid-December breaks. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. I feel like it's always week 12, 13, or 14 for us.
Basically, the second Sunday in December the last 3 seasons. I'd like to see that in October or September. Or, I'm sorry, November. But yeah, I kind of want to say that they're going to win 10.
That was kind of my thought too. 10.
And that gets you in a wild card probably. And then they're dangerous at that point. The good teams, I mean, you look at who's better than them. And, Philly lost 5 starters on defense. So you get a chance to fight with them again on there. And, I mean, Detroit, they beat handily. And Detroit lost both their coordinators.
Yep.
So that's, who else, is really out there that you're so worried about?
I mean, the Packers are going to still be around. The Vikings will probably take a step back without Darnold playing out of his mind. I mean, they're going to turn to J.J. McCarthy, who looked good in the preseason before he got hurt. What are the Bears going to do with Ben Johnson at head coach? Does Caleb actually take a step forward in his second year? Probably not.
No.
They definitely spent a lot of money to protect him. I'll say that. They pretty much upgraded every position on the offensive line that they could. But yeah, I mean, the Giants are going to be starting a rookie quarterback in their coach's probably last season because he's going to end up getting fired. San Francisco was ravaged with injuries last year. Do they catch the injury bug? I mean, they are older. They got Trent Williams. They just gave George Kittle a bunch of money. He's 31 years old. Brock Purdy is, whether you want to call him a system quarterback or not, he's a good quarterback for San Francisco. But yeah, I mean, the Rams are probably going to be good again this year. I could see that. I think the Packers had a really good draft, and I think they're going to take another step forward with Love. What are the Buccaneers? Who comes out of the South? I mean, is Atlanta? Does Penix, show up this year and blow the doors off like Jaden did last year? There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, but I definitely could see them winning 10 games. Whether it's wild card or somehow they could sneak into winning the division. I don't know how you contend with Philly. But.
Yeah, people ask me all the time, are they going back to Richmond for training camp? No, that's a double no. No, the city doesn't want. And they've changed things since that site anyway. There's a chance they won't go anywhere this summer. There's a chance they've looked at Shepherd College, which is in the middle, and that's another Frostburg situation. Maybe next year, maybe we'll kind of wait and see on that. So they'll have the same summer practices. We'll be back around training camp. We're taking off for a little bit. There's a little bit of off-season camps, but not as much as last year because they have a second-year coach. And they wrap up in the middle of June for mini camp, and then they take off like 6 weeks. It's the only time, a lot of guys still lift weights and all, but that's when coaches go on vacation, things like that.
Well, and look, Josh Harris and Magic and Mark Iron and guys like that, they're not pumping a bunch of money into Redskins Park or Commanders Park, whatever you want to call it, to have them go other places. They're spending a lot of money on the park.
Yeah, the one reason they would like to go away is for
camaraderie,
scrimmages against other teams, because they just don't have room for a second team.
Yeah.
You have to go down to Lansdowne or something. And work. And so they've had a hard time with other teams saying, yeah, we'll do a, home and away with you, but you don't have an away, you don't have a home for them. They have been building at the park and put in some new rooms and all.
Well, we saw the new draft room.
Yeah. So they've got that. They turned that old field on the fourth field. Um, you know, if the other team was willing to have off-field, off-site, you know, locker rooms, all get on a bus for 10 minutes and be over Lansdowne, they could do it. And that's why they kind of wanted to think about doing this. But it all kind of partly was what's going to happen with a new stadium, and do we have to be obligated suddenly to do it? I think with DC, it's less so. I mean, where are you going to? There's nowhere to train in DC, so I think Ashburn stays there. They may go somewhere else in Ashburn. I'm not sure. There's talk of that. But if it had been Maryland, I think they might have wanted them to move more stuff over to Maryland. They do have their corporate offices in College Park as part of this political thing a couple of years ago, that they moved them out of the stadium and to right on the University of Maryland area. There's talk about making that move over to DC. That may be one of the concessions to get the final votes. And that's fine. What do I care? But they just, they're still it's kind of weird how you have corporate offices, stadium in one place, and stadium in DC, but you don't have a secondary place to build a training facility in DC. Some places do, like Philly. It's right there next to it, the Giants. But I don't think that's going to happen in DC unless you tear down the Armory, maybe. I don't know for that.
There you go. I just thought about that too. Tear down the Armory and make it Commander's Park.
Then, what places one is they want, it used to be payroll and taxes that they really sought, the taxes. But now cities just went ahead and they tax every player on that. And then you can work it out in your W-2s and reciprocity later on there. But, the visiting and home teams, players and staff and all that. But there's lots of people who work at the park that they don't do that too. But I know like the PR kid had like $3 taken out of his paycheck once because of this. It's all taxes. And I don't even know anymore with taxes and all the changes that have been made. I mean, somebody was telling me the other day that corporate suites aren't tax deductible anymore. I didn't know that. He said, yeah, it happened a while ago. I just figured there's big money. I mean, to me, the new Commander Stadium is all going to be K Street lobbyists and lawyers. And who sits behind the Nats, home plate? All the rich people. Ain't Joe Blow sitting there. It's law firms that have it, and they dole out tickets to people that work at the law.
I don't know. There's this one old guy. My wife and I always pick him out. It's either his son or his brother or somebody that sits with him every game. We always pick that guy out. He's right there behind home plate every single game. But that's a guy that's probably spent his life, that was like his thing that he wanted to do when he retired. He probably bought those tickets the day they went on sale, back 20 years ago in 2005.
You can tell who's new sitting back there because every foul ball they flinch.
Right.
Whoa. Regulars aren't.
All right, my last question for you, and then we'll go. Was this team? How do I phrase this? Was Josh Harris the right person to purchase this team, or could any other person have done this where it just took money?
Well, I don't know how many. I mean, Bezos never stepped in. I mean, he never made a real bid.
But I'm saying, regardless of who bid or anything like that, is this centralized to Harris and his guys, Ein, Magic, Mitch Rales, guys like that, and his investors that they don't speak of? Is it specific to that group, or was this team just so downtrodden that anybody that came in and threw a couple bucks at it would have turned this around?
I think they could have turned it around to a point, but some of these guys are locals, like Mitch Rales and Ein, and they're in DC government all the time dealing with their businesses, and they're pretty well liked. So, and Magic's Magic. So, everybody wants to be with Magic. Is one of those guys. So definitely they had an easier path. I'll say that. And Rails somehow knows how to shake money trees to make whatever work. And it seems like a decent enough guy. I wouldn't want to be across the negotiating table from him because I have a feeling he's a lot tougher than we think. But anybody look better than Dan Snyder. That
was kind of my thinking was when you look at a guy like Mark Ein own the Washington Castles, he's had to deal with Mayor Bowser to get the, for them to play at the Tennisplex and all that stuff. So he's dealt with this type of stuff before, but I think you nailed it on the head. Josh Harris grew up here. Mitch Rales, Mark Ein, they grew up here. They're still here. They've built businesses in this city. And like you said, Magic Johnson is Magic Johnson. That's one of the most recognizable names in sports. Even people that don't watch basketball know who Magic Johnson is. So, I'm kind of in agreement with you that I think it had to have been this group to get this done. I'll be honest with you, Rick, the day that it was announced that Snyder was selling the team, of course, we all had a party. But when he actually did it, and at first we talked about it. Is it going to be the Bezoses? Is it going to be this guy? Is it going to be this multi-billionaire who's going to come in and throw a bunch of money at it? And then Josh Harris kind of comes out of left field, and you're like, well, we don't know anything about this guy, but he owns the Devils and he owns the 76ers. And then just the fact that he's been able to get done what he's gotten done in 2 years. And realistically, the first year was just, let's reverse everything that Dan Snyder did. Let's find every last skeleton and get him out of the closet, and let's clean up everything that he screwed up over the past 20 years. And then really, last year was the first full year of the Harris ownership group pulling the strings when it comes to Quinn and Peters and, making the selections that Peters made. And I don't understand. It makes me angry of what Dan did to this team for 20 plus years, but it does make me happy that it is a guy like Josh Harris who took over.
Yeah, maybe you'll take me to a game while I'm old and I can go see the inside of this place.
Yeah, I'll wheel you. Hopefully they got a handicap ramp like RFK did.
Yeah, there was a lot of handicap ramps because you had to walk up the med up and down.
I know.
There was an elevator that got like 6 people in it, and once rode with Howard Cosell up.
I'll make you this promise. Do you remember what they did to Ted Williams when he died?
No, what?
They put his head in a jar.
Oh yeah,
and they kept him alive.
Well.
So look, if you die before this stadium is built, I will put your head in a jar, and your eyeballs will, you will see the stadium with your own 2 eyes.
All right, well, that's something to look forward to. I don't know. I'd like to go 50 years and make it to 2028. And we'll see, and if not, that only matters to me anyway. But yeah, that's it does make me a little sad that all the good stuff coming at the end of my career, and I had to put up with all this crap from Dan Snyder's era.
Well, I will say this on behalf of you. I would ask Josh Harris or Mariel Bowser or anybody that's involved, can you please just let Rick get a golden shovel and 1 scoop of dirt when they break ground? I think he deserves it.
That would be nice, but I didn't work at the Post, so it doesn't count.
Oh, I forgot.
6 years, but at their Express edition. But they'll give it to Tony or somebody. One of those.
Tony's not born here. Tony's from New York. Wilbon's from Chicago.
I know, but that's just how the world circulates. So,
yeah.
I always get out of here before I cry on something. Back for training camp at the end of July, and we're just going to goof off until then as far as this show. But if you're watching Rick Snyder's Washington, I'm there every day. So lots of good stuff. And, of course, our 52 Questions for Gods, 6 episodes in, doing pretty decent. I think 20,000 people watched this week on there. So I can't.
On a personal note, congrats, Chris, on your retirement.
Yeah, and my partner, Chris, is sort of retiring. He's still a minister, but I guess you don't actually – it's like being a doctor. You don't actually get to stop.
Yeah.
Somehow. I guess he can just quit, blasphemy to send me to hell if I get something wrong.
Send him over here. I need a little saving.
I mean, those 2 blocks from you, I guess you can go over. There. But yeah, this show's doing great. People, I get a lot of unfollows and people hate on it, and that's fine. That's your business. You don't pay to watch me anyway. I'm not losing money here. But we're trying to do some different things. I haven't done any pizza shows in a while, so somebody was telling me today, you got to go. I was like, yeah, I guess. I don't know why I haven't done any lately, but I've been busy. It's been busy off season. And as you get semi-retired, I found out you're even busier. So
yeah,
there you go. All right. I'm Rick Snyder.
I'm Matt.
See you soon.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Seasons of Discontent with your hosts, Rick Snyder and Matt Cohn.